Hey there, adventurers! Welcome to an awesome adventure in history that is also found in the Bible. Today we're exploring the book of Ruth. Get ready to meet two amazing women, Ruth and Naomi. This event happened over 3,000 years ago, around 1200 BC. This story is full of friendship, courage, and surprises. It's set in ancient Israel during the time of the Judges, before there were kings. We'll learn what makes this story so special, and we will share cool facts about their world. For example, ever heard of a threshing floor? Ready for a journey of loyalty and love? Hit that like button and let's get started. Let's begin in a little town called Bethlehem in Judah. Yep, the same Bethlehem where Jesus is born later in history. It is around 1200 BC, a time when Israel didn't have kings yet, just leaders called judges. Naomi lives here with her husband Elimelech and their two sons, Mahlon and Kilion. During this time, there's a famine that comes upon Israel. A famine means no food grows in the land and everyone becomes super hungry, and they begin looking for new food sources. So Elimelech says, let's move to Moab. Moab is a nearby land just east of the Dead Sea, about a 50-mile walk, like walking to your school and back about 25 times. Check out a map to see their journey. They pack up everything, travel to Moab, and begin living there. Did you know Moabites and Israelites weren't always friends? They had different gods, like Moab's god Chemosh, while Israelites worshipped the one true God Yahweh. Fun fact, Bethlehem means house of bread. Kinda ironic during a famine, don't you think? In Moab, things start off okay, but then big trouble hits. Elimelech dies and leaves Naomi a widow with her two sons. That's really hard back then. No husband meant no money, no protection for the family. But her sons, Mahlon and Kilion, grow up and marry two Moabite girls, Ruth and Orpah. They live happily for about 10 years, until tragedy strikes again. Both Mahlon and Kilion die, leaving Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah all alone as widows. 3 widows in one family. Imagine how sad they felt. Naomi hears the famine in Bethlehem is over, so she decides, I'm going home. Did you know that widows often had to beg or rely on family to have her needs met? This meant a place to live, food to eat. Life was tough for widows during this time in history. Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah start the journey back to Bethlehem together, but Naomi stops and says, girls, go back to your families in Moab. You're young. You can still remarry. Naomi is trying to be kind even though she's heartbroken. Orpah gives Naomi a big hug, cries, and decides to head back to Moab. This is totally understandable. What about Ruth? Well, she won't leave. She says to Naomi, don't ask me to leave you. Where you go, I'll go. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Wow, that is loyalty. Ruth, a Moabite, chooses Naomi's God, the God of Israel, over her old ways. They arrive in Bethlehem and everyone is happy that Naomi is back. Fun fact, Ruth's words are so famous, people use them in weddings today. In Bethlehem, Naomi and Ruth are poor. They have no money and no food. But Ruth says, I'll go work. She heads to the fields to glean. Gleaning means picking up leftover grain from the ground after the harvesters finish. It's hard work, like collecting tiny crumbs all day. But it's how poor people got food back then. The field belongs to a man named Boaz, who's related to Naomi's husband, Elimelech. Boaz sees Ruth working hard and hears she's been super kind to Naomi. He tells Ruth, stay in my field, take extra grain, and my workers will keep you safe. Boaz is a good man. Did you know that gleaning was a rule in Israel? God told farmers to leave some of the crops for the poor, so the harvesters would not pick all the crops or would leave what fell to the ground for the poor amongst them to pick up. God made sure to take care of everyone, even the ones who society sees as the least. God shows compassion to his people in different ways every day. Ruth tells Naomi, Boaz was so nice to me. Naomi's eyes light up. She says, Boaz is our relative, a kinsman-redeemer. That's a special job in Israel, a relative who helps a family in trouble by marrying a widow or buying their land to keep it in the family. It's called a levirate marriage, kind of like a family superhero. Naomi has a plan. Ruth, go to Boaz at the threshing floor tonight. Dress nice and ask him to help us. A threshing floor is a big flat spot where they separate grain from stalks. Think a giant outdoor kitchen for wheat. Ruth does, and Boaz is amazed by her loyalty. He says, I'll help, but there's another relative closer in line to you. The next day, Boaz meets that guy at the city gate and they make a deal. They seal it by giving a sandal, like a high five back then. The other guy steps aside so Boaz can help Ruth and Naomi. Cool, right? Boaz marries Ruth. Hooray! He buys Naomi's family land, keeping it safe, and takes care of both women. Soon Ruth and Boaz have a baby boy named Obed. Naomi's so happy she becomes like a grandma to Obed, cuddling him and smiling again. The women of Bethlehem cheer. Naomi has a son, meaning a new family to love. Here's the big twist. Obed grows up to be the grandfather of King David. Yep, the David who beats Goliath. And David's family leads to Jesus, making Ruth and Naomi part of a huge story. Fun fact, Ruth is one of only 2 women with a Bible book named after her, the other's Esther. Ever celebrated a new family member? Share below. Let's zoom into their world. During this time, people lived in small villages like Bethlehem. Houses were made of mud bricks with flat roofs to sleep on when it was hot. They farmed wheat and barley, herded sheep, and made bread by grinding grain with stones. Hard work. Women like Ruth and Naomi spun wool into thread, cooked and fetched water from wells. No phones, no cars, just walking everywhere. They wore long tunics and sandals, and girls often married young, like in their teens. Fun fact, they used olive oil lamps to light their homes at night. Can you imagine no electricity? Have you ever tried making bread from scratch? We have, and it is hard work but rewarding, especially when you get to eat it. Why is this story so cool? Ruth and Naomi show us loyalty. Ruth didn't leave Naomi even when it was hard. It's about kindness too. Boaz helped them when they had nothing, and it shows God's love. Ruth, a Moabite outsider, joins God's family and becomes part of Jesus' story. The book of Ruth is short, just 4 chapters, but it's a big deal. It teaches us to stick by our friends, help others, and trust God's plan. Fun fact, Jewish people read Ruth during a harvest festival called Shavuot. Ruth and Naomi returned to Israel around the same time as the festival. It's also the same time the Israelites were given the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai years before with Moses. What's your favorite friendship lesson? Share below. That's the story of Ruth and Naomi, adventurers. We saw Naomi lose everything, Ruth's amazing loyalty, Boaz's kindness, and a happy ending with baby Obed, leading to King David and Jesus. It's a tale of friendship, courage, and God's big plan, set in ancient Israel. What's your favorite part? Ruth's promise, Boaz's help, or the baby surprise? Drop it below, hit that bell, and subscribe for more Bible adventures. See you next time at The Unseen Tutor.